Hello, everyone. It is a fine Wednesday afternoon this July, and I've been brought this article. I read it, and it's on my mind, so I'm going to say something about this commentary. Um, it's by Tom Sistron. And I just saw something earlier posted by Pierre Polyev. He was criticizing the prime minister about the land developers. Now, I'm not a big fan of land developers. They come across like speculators. Actually, they might as well be speculators in their current behavior. Now, the issue was okay. So we have a housing crisis. I don't think we have a housing crisis. What we have is an overpopulation crisis because we had this large influx of people that were supposed to fill the menial jobs and to continue to support artificially the standard of living that previous generations enjoyed. Now, if you've been paying attention to the larger trends, my generation, the millennials, because I was born in 1986, is the first generation to have less and a lower standard of living than their parents. Now, the fallacy behind what drove or the anxiety, it was basically 110% effort all the time in those Cold War years, and then even after in the 90s, that encouraged productivity culture. So anything and everything that encouraged productivity culture. So as long as we were producing something, it didn't matter how we were doing it, as long as it was within the confines of the law. But then again, a lot of financiers of noteworthy of note committed very big crimes. And finance crimes don't seem like very much, but they affect everyone at a broader scale. And to me, it's disgusting how easily these people get off uh, when it comes to being prosecuted, and then what they receive bonuses thereafter. And like I kind of get it, you have to live, but the idea of punishment is that you don't return to the same standard of living as you had before. Is that you had garnered from ill-gotten gains, except that it's legal. That's the only difference between some CEOs and some degenerate criminals, quite frankly. You both, a lot of them have the same creative mentality. Just we'll find a way to keep this going. But and at the same time, is it really worth keeping going? Because we're importing all of these people in order to maintain it, as I said, a standard of living that is unsustainable. And this article talks about how we're basically at the end of globalism, and I think that's true. I think as soon as Trump started levying tariffs on everyone, it was the end of globalism. That was the moment. That was the beginning of the finance wars. And the reason why we have the finance wars, dare I say, is because of some Middle Eastern countries who want to rule the world through the UN, and they've been trying to do that since the 1950s. So what does it matter if the other countries are experiencing financial hardship? As long as it advances the goals of a particular Middle Eastern country that happens to be the Holy Land. And that's the only reason that we go along with what they say, is because it's the Holy Land. Now, if I'm going to involve religion in this, because finance and religion tend to go hand in hand, Jesus went into the temple and he saw that they were exchanging money in the temple. So he flipped the temple and he's like flipped the tables in which they were trading on, and accosted them, saying, "Why are you trading money in a house of worship?" Now, thank God I have access to my house of worship, because otherwise I might not be able to launder money. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm glossing over some larger things here. Um, what position is best for other countries in the world? Is to have Canada in a weaker financial position with a lower currency, and even some Canadian businesses are like, "Oh, I'm very much dependent upon the lower," as it says in this article, right? Because our main trading partner is the United States. Um, that it's more beneficial for us to have less than a dollar. Like, people were freaking out if the dollar rose above like 80 something cents. And of course, this is a boomer mentality, right? This is again a boom mentality, not just a boomer mentality. This prosperity model, the endless prosperity, and that is as much as a fallacy as total equity or total equality, like absolute equality. The gist of it is that you can't spend yourself out of depression, right? What happened with FDR's New Deal in the 1930s, and the reason why that worked for them was only because they went to war. If the states hadn't gone to war in 1939, their depression would have extended for far longer, and there would have been a chance, in all realities, that the uh, communists in Russia and the other parts of the world, they might have actually won. They might have actually won with central planning, because that's what the force of nature was behind, again, Nazi Germany. It's the same. If you have a centrally planned economy, the worst example is probably China, as it is right now. And we've done away with the gold standard, like, for over 90 years now. And it says here, his opinion is that the inflation is systemic. Does that sound familiar? Like a systemic discrimination. Because the reality is that people come here. They some of them are here on the merits of their accomplishments, but some of them are here to carve out their piece of the pie, no matter how they do it, with sentimentality of revenge against the Commonwealth for colonialism, or some whatever mystical fucking reason and motivation they use to substantiate, or they use to justify their actions. So what he's saying here is that it's a snowball effect, right? So the more people that we import, the more, especially if they don't speak English. Like, if you can't speak English, you can't have a conversation, and you're not understandable. Like, you're not fluent. I'm sorry, we can't conduct business with you. You have to speak English or French. That's in the charter. No other language in Canada is protected under the charter. Only English and only French. Only those two. Does everyone get the idea here? Multiculturalism has been and is a decoy, for slavery. And I speak from experience as a contractor, in which if you don't fall in line with the customer, they'll find any and every reason to get rid of you, because you're the one that highlights the problem and not the one that solves the problem, even though you have the capability to do so. But they don't want you to solve the problem because it's a racket. It's a racket, okay? That's what my dad would say. My dad is a financial planner and an insurance broker, independent. And he received training from London Life back in the day and all that other stuff. You would think that my father's pretty well known. And he travels in financial and religious circles. So, it's this conflict between philanthropy, investment capital, and generosity and prejudice. A rich man has as much chance getting into heaven as a camel does through the eye of a needle. But if you want to solve people's problems, you sure as hell aren't going to do it by leveraging empty condo units to pay for ones that aren't built. Now, if there's a good example, I want to cite, and I'm gonna call them. I'm gonna put them on blast, so to speak, and support them. The Canadian Forces was mandated to come up with new barracks. Okay, you look at that. You look at this. That's on a military base, brand fucking new, and I bet you that's downright luxurious to some of the accommodations that other soldiers have to endure. I've seen pictures from the States in which some facilities are in disrepair, and that's just terrible. It's disgusting. It's insulting. I don't care if you think that a military base should be as basic, if not more basic and Spartan than a prison cell. You're fucked. You're fucked. Why should our soldiers be treated like they're in prison? They're not in prison. They're in service. There's a big difference between those two things. Right? And how quickly, I've made mention of this before with some of the housing that was on base Borden. And, it doesn't need to be a torture chamber. But the flip side of land developing is that when you have people in low income, most of the time, people in poverty are just not that smart. I know that's a very judgmental thing to say, but the proximity of drug abuse, IQ, intelligence quotient, and criminal activity are within proximity of each other. Like, everybody knows this. And you have a bunch of sociologists going, oh, I can't see straight because I took too much Adderall this morning. I gave myself rug burn. Whoops. Anyways, from what I can tell, the CFHA has done everything above board, but I don't think that. Actually, I would like to confirm this, that civilian developers are not held to the same regard or to the same standards, because it's just like, okay, again, it's this scenario. How does Canada benefit from this financial position of basically being a couple of days away from defaulting on its international loans, right? And we can't print our way out of inflation. Okay, we can't spend our way out of inflation. I keep saying these words as confirming. Goodness, I can't even listen to myself speak here. The only way to really bring a country out of poverty is large scale infrastructure projects, as it was with the interstates and some of the maybe like some city planning. I don't know, whatever. But the interstate program was one of the most successful programs uh, to have been implemented by the American government. And the same with the railroads, like those two things. And we got some lofty ideas going around here, like say like the high speed rail corridor project, and that's a thing right now. Where all the money went. Why do people care about this money? That's what I want to ask. If it's not backed by anything, why does anybody give a shit? It has zero value. It's not even worth the numbers printed on it. Why? Because it's not backed by anything. This is like first year economics. The brazen attitude that people have, and that they see Canada as a target because of our standard of living, and because of our luxuries, and because of our resources, and because other people look at us as if we're meek, right? We're weak. We're an easy target. And for a long time, Canada depended on its diplomacy in order to keep itself safe. But obviously, that isn't working anymore because there's just people out there that don't believe in diplomacy. Okay. Anyways, I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. And I'm gonna end it at just under 20 minutes. Tom's right about a lot of, and then again, I'm speaking from personal experience here, having seen so many financial errors in the aviation industry. And in the aviation industry, a screw doesn't cost a couple of dollars from the hardware store. It costs $1,000 because of all the shit that's associated with it and its production. So aviation is one of the greatest perps, the biggest perpetrators of speculation and inflation, if not racketeering. I hate to say that about aviation, but funding makes the ship go up. It's a quote from The Right Stuff. Uh, Eventually, there's going to have to be a reckoning here, right? There's going to be a market correction, and it's not going to work out in the way that these whales want it to. I'm just saying, there will be consequences to their decisions, but they just don't care because they're insulated from them. So the only way to take back control is to seize the means of production. I'll let you figure out what that means for the government without treading into communist territory.